There is this prevailing narrative that being an adult gamer is a perpetual struggle, that we are constantly fighting an uphill battle against time, responsibilities, and a hobby that just doesn't fit into our lives anymore. But I've been asking myself lately, is it really a struggle, or are we just trying to force a teenage gaming habit into an adult lifestyle? We are constantly told that as adults, we should have less time, and therefore, we should struggle to play. But maybe the problem isn't really the time. Maybe the problem is the method. So today, I want to talk about the adult gamer struggle and see why a few simple mindset shifts can turn a chore back into a hobby. Now, if you think about it, the real hurdle isn't that we don't have an hour to play each night. It's what I call the context gap, the knowledge gap. Now, I don't mean UI or control complexity, because those things, we only really need to spend a couple of sessions to get used to them. Yes, the game can have complex mechanisms and UI and interface, but unless you're not really the type of person who can play those types of games well, you would probably understand how the game works after the first few sessions. Afterwards, your brain memory and the muscle memory takes care of most of that trivial stuff. But with limited time, we might just lose the thread of what we were actually doing the previous session. I think therein lies our real struggle. If you sit down at 9 p.m. and spend your first 20 minutes just to reorient yourself, scrolling through the quest logs, checking your inventory, trying to remember why you were standing in the middle of a swamp, what you were doing in your last session, you've already drained the time and the momentum. By the time you actually start making progress, your window's closing. It's not about a lack of skill. It's just that there's a lot of massive titles that are designed with the assumption that you're playing every single day for hours at a time. You need to burn the time to progress in these types of games. These are not built for the stop-start nature of busy adult lives. When your time's limited, you don't need a game that requires a 20-minute recap each time you play. You need a game that lets you pick up the thread the second you hit start. So what if you found that game? The game that you can just sit down and start playing without having to reorient yourself for 20 minutes. Well, that's only just the first hurdle. The second hurdle could be a little more damaging, and that is the guilt. The feeling of guilt of playing. Imagine you sit down to play, and within 10 to 15 minutes, your brain or your mind is trying to find a mental justification for sitting down to play. Could I be doing something productive? Should I be, cleaning? Should I be tucking my daughter in bed? Should I be, folding clothes? Is this grind in this game actually rewarding? This feeling of guilt, this feeling of maybe I'm just wasting my time doing something that I shouldn't be doing, wasn't really a problem for us when we were kids, right? Because as kids, we thought we had a surplus of time. But as adults, we now know that we have a deficit of time. When you're at your 9 p.m. window, sure, your brain is already fried, and you think if you spend that limited time and limited energy on a game that treats your time like it's infinite, with long tutorials and slow starts and endless inventory management, the whole playing that game stops feeling like a reward and starts feeling like a performance review that you didn't really prepare for. And the review score would seem very low because you're not focusing on being quote-unquote productive. The struggle here is that this guilt cultivates a lack of respect for your own chosen leisure activity and demoralizes you. I think one way to figure out whether you actually have this guilt problem is just think about the times when you are asked what your hobbies were or what you do after dinner or whatever the case may be. And if you sort of found it embarrassing to say, oh yeah, I play games, then, subconsciously you might be thinking that your gaming time shouldn't really be gaming time. It should be spent on something else. So what can we do? I think it's time that we turn the table around. Let's stop looking at ourselves as a problem or the deterrent to our hobby, and let's look at the games instead. The reality is this: the adult gamer struggle is often just a refusal to let go of the type of gamer we used to be. As an example, we try to force a marathon gaming sessions to ourselves, such as playing World of Warcraft and playing in a raiding guild. If we try to push that into our limited play window and limited brain capacity, then it's no wonder why we are exhausted even thinking about it. I've found that the best way to handle this is to treat your gaming library like your diet. You wouldn't eat the same thing every day. It's not healthy. So why do you feel like you have to play the same 100-hour RPGs? Sure, there may have been times when those 100-hour RPGs absolutely fitted your life. But right now, as a busy adult, maybe those 100-hour RPGs are not the diet that you should be on. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't eat. There are lots of other, yummy food out there. If you only have a few hours a week, and those hours feel like work playing those games, you are not the problem. The games are. Reclaiming your hobby means accepting that your time is precious. It means playing on your terms. Choose easy difficulty if you just want the story. Choose to play 5 matches of Hearthstone at a time instead of 50. Choose not to go for a 20-man raid in WoW and instead play a couple missions of Warcraft 3. Maybe choose a game you can pick up and put down in 15 minutes. It's not necessarily lesser gaming, choosing to do so. It's efficient gaming. At the end of the day, don't let the internet tell you that you aren't a gamer because your play sessions look different than they did a decade ago. And don't let a poorly designed grind convince you that you're losing your touch. We play to reclaim control, to find logic, and to enjoy a victory that belongs entirely to us. I mean, that's ultimately why we play games, right? I've had my share of victories in 40-man WoW raids back in my day, years ago, and I don't really have to have those same experiences again. I've lived through them already. But I love the fantasy settings, the character builds, boss fights, the looting, all of those things combined. Well, raiding in WoW isn't the only game that can give me that though. I've yet to actually play Diablo 2, believe it or not. I've played the first one and the third one and somehow missed the second one. Yeah, I know. But anyhow, Diablo 2, for me, could just give me that fantasy setting, those character RPG progression, boss fights, and plus some item looting that I enjoyed from doing the raids in WoW. Yeah, surely I'll be losing social aspects and, the MMORPG specific things. But, for me personally, Diablo 2 almost scratches the same itch. So whether you're an RPG gamer, an explorer, or just someone who needs to decompress for 20 minutes at a time, make sure your gaming time is actually serving you. Maybe we can all be a little bit harsh, not on ourselves anymore, but the games we have. Pick the games that fit us, not the other way around. If you've enjoyed this discussion, please like the video and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on my weekly videos. I've got lots more I want to talk to you about adult gaming. Let's have a discussion going on in the comments. What is the one game that actually respects your time? Are you finding that the struggle is disappearing once you've started playing the game that you actually wanted to play instead of what you thought you should play? I'll see you in the next video. Play safe. Bye for now.